Happy New Year to all of you, and may this year be blessed in many, many ways on your spiritual journey. Welcome to this important webinar, Engaging the Laudato Si Action Platform. We want to bring our whole family together for change. My name is Sister Sheila Kinsey. I'm a Franciscan sister, daughter of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. I'm the Executive Co-Secretary of our JPIC Commission for USG and UISG, the two unions of religious men and women, and I coordinate then the Sowing Hope for the Planet. And we're happy to continue on our journey, developing Sowing Hope for the Planet, which is to actualize the Laudato Si. And today we're going to be exploring the Laudato Si Action Platform because we religious are one of the sectors of that effort. And we also want to respond to the call of Pope Francis for the Synod on synodality. So Sowing Hope for the Planet continues to coordinate and integrate our efforts in our response to the opportunities of these new experiences. So in our journey, we interconnect with the Laudato Si platform in this way. We have 7 goals: listening to the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, the ecological economics, the simple lifestyle or sustainable lifestyle, ecological education, ecological spirituality, and community engagement, participatory action. So these are the 7 goals that try to bring about, in reality, the Laudato Si. And then we're engaged in 7 sectors. Religious actually are in all of them, but these are the family, the educational institutions, the economy, parishes and dioceses, hospitals and healthcare, organizations and groups. So these is our working relationship, how we need to be connected with our goals and with our partners who are in these different sectors. And we're journeying as a family together in synodality. So we're about living a communion, being with one another in relationship, having actions together, participating in common efforts to be aware of what's happening around the globe, and being open to the mission of Christ, which is the gospel. We're about liberating all and about the sense of well-being for everyone. So the purpose then of the Synod is about weaving together relationships, awakening to a new dawn of hope, hope for the planet, sowing hope for the planet, learning from one another, enlightening our minds and warming our hearts, and strengthening our hands. So this is the agenda that we have for today. Soon we'll be hearing from Father Joseph Blay, who will be leading us in prayer. We'll have messages of commitment on the Laudato Si Action Platform from 2 of our leaders, the co-presidents of the commission, Sister Noel and Father Booty. In the second part, we'll be dealing with the deepening of understanding of the Laudato Si Action Platform, really finding out what is this enrollment like with Maureen, and then Sister Jacinta will be sharing what it has happened in her congregation. And then we will deal with the networking, community engagement, and how that is both a connection of Laudato Si Action Platform and synodality. And after each section, we hope to pause for time with some questions, because we know we're in a learning experience, and we need to work together to really help one another learn what works for us and what doesn't work. So to begin then with Father Joseph, he is the Executive Co-Secretary of the JPIC Commission, along with myself, representing the men's congregation. He's a board member of Franciscans International, which is at the United Nations. And he, in his own congregation, was the former JPIC coordinator for his congregation, which is the OFM Conventionals. And he's finishing his doctoral work on a study on poverty and mining. So please, Father Joseph, lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Sister Sheila. So please let us all recollect ourselves just in a moment to be in the mood of prayer. And we begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. We will be accompanied by this song. Let all things now living sing praise to God.
I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Let all things now living a song of thanksgiving
to God the Creator, triumphant.
Please, if you want to sing, yeah, good. Put off your... Right. So we now pray together with two of the Laudato Si prayer campaigns. We will say the prayer for the religious group, which is actually dedicated for Saturdays. And then we have the one for Friday, because today is Friday, and that is the one for groups and organizations. So we start with our own. Please, you may switch off your microphone and then pray with us. I'll keep mine loud just to accompany the rest of the group. God of communion, enable us to become communities of participatory action and advocacy for the earth and the poor. Enable our religious communities in particular to be prophetic servant leaders in the care of our common home and of the least among us. We join with the one for today. Triune God, help our movements, NGOs, communication centers, and all groups that work for the common good to develop a spirituality of global solidarity which flows from the mystery of who you are, an interconnected community of love. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. Saint Francis of Assisi, pray for us. The Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Joseph. for so movingly putting us in the place of joy of all of creation, and for our need to be positive in our response to the needs of the world and in our relationships with one another, so that we can find God in all things now living. So in terms of our movement today, we would seek leadership, guidance, inspiration. And so as a JPIC commission, they help lead us forward in areas that are important to us to pursue injustice, peace, and care for the integrity of creation. So on November 8th, we had a meeting together with representatives from both unions, the men and women religious congregations. And this is what we had decided as a commission. The JPIC Commission of USG and UISG endorses the Laudato Si Action platform in the Universal Church as a way of providing opportunities to actualize Laudato Si. And the JPIC Commission has been coordinating Sowing Hope for the Planet. So it was important for us to look at this new opportunity of the Laudato Si Action platform as a way of helping us move again in sowing hope for the planet. And it is important for us to hear from our two presidents, the co-presidents, as they are leaders of their own congregations, and they are leaders for the leaders of both groups, the men and women religious congregations. And so I would like to begin with Sister Noel Corsadon, who is the Superior General of the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the IBVM, Loreto as they often are known as. She's been involved in educational ministry and development work and has worked in Tanzania with the Jesuit Refugee Service. So I asked Sister Noel to share some of her insights and her commitment of her congregation to the Laudato Si Action platform. Please, Sister Noel.
Thank you very much, Sheila. And thank you to yourself and to Brother Joseph for giving the lead in this to all of us, because you're the two people who do the work, actually. But I'm delighted to be here today because I think the Laudato Si Action platform, it's a unique collaboration between the Vatican, between an international coalition of Catholic organizations, and in fact, between everyone, between all men and women of goodwill. And at this Kairos moment, we're responding to the call for healing in our relationships with God, with our neighbors, and with the earth itself. I think through the Laudato Si Action platform, we're walking a path to renewal, and we're doing that together. It's something I think that's very dear to Pope Francis, is that this togetherness, because it's in the togetherness that we'll be the effective agents of change and the agents of healing for our planet. For many of us, the work of the integrity of creation is not something new. As religious and over many years, we have been committed to the work of the care of the earth and for our common home. I think in Laudato Si, Pope Francis has given us a new impetus, but it's a new impetus to something that has always been dear to us as religious. And he has given us a more holistic approach, because it's to care not just for the earth, but it's a greater love for God, it's a greater love for each other, and it's a greater love for the home we share. So the JPIC Commission, we are very committed to promoting the Laudato Si Action platform. So we would encourage all our member congregations and their worldwide connections to make a difference in our world today. We encourage all congregational leaders to be proactive in supporting their JPIC promoters and encouraging your own congregational Laudato Si Action platform. In particular, to talk for the moment to the members of UISG, we have a particular commitment to support the Sowing Hope for Our Planet initiative. And it's another window, it's another platform for looking at and understanding and reflecting on Laudato Si. And the Sowing Hope for Our Planet website offers many resources and a lot of information on working for the care of our planet. As a congregation, we work closely with our sister congregation, the CJs, and we actually have a joint JPIC office here in Rome with two promoters, a sister from each congregation working together. And each of our provinces has a JPIC committee or a JPIC promoter working on the ground to promote the values of Laudato Si. We also have two sisters working at the UN office. And like many of your congregations, our sisters and our colleagues around the world are working with the poor, we're working with refugees, with women, with people who are trafficked. We're working for the termination of FGM in Africa. Because we all know that it's at the grassroots that the work really takes place. So as general leadership, we see our role as one of encouragement and one of raising awareness. So we have encouraged and endorsed the Laudato Si action plan initiated by our promoters, our two promoters. Initially, they set up a core group and invited 7 people to do personal reflections on each of the goals. And this was all in preparation for a webinar, which they held last June and which engaged membership and colleagues from around the world to make a commitment and to be involved. As I said, the work is actually happening at province level and it's using the See, Judge and Act methodology. And the drive and direction is offered by our two very energetic and committed JPIC promoters. And we as leadership, we endorse it. They have been very creative in using and engaging our artists and musicians around the world. And they have made it a very creative and a very engaging process for us all. And their website and their social media have great stories and have great involvement from members. At the end of the season of creation, they produced and released a document of what has been happening in all the provinces into 2021. And they told us that this is the 2021 edition. So an assessment of what is happening in each province, it presumes that there's going to be a 2022 edition at the end of this year as well. So hopefully the work is going to continue. After that, we enrolled as a congregation on the platform, and later we uploaded the Mary Ward Family Action Plan. Despite the challenges that the Laudato Si Action platform has on the self-assessment form, some of you may already have discovered this, it's not really geared initially to congregations, but it's hoped that by April of this year that we will be able to do the self-assessment in a way that's more relevant for us as religious congregations. So as I said, and I'll say again, we're not doing something new really. Care of the earth is part of our DNA and has been for many years. It's been going on, but now the difference is we're bringing it together, we're doing it together and we're coordinating as congregations around the world. So working together across the world with as many members and as many colleagues as possible and being proactive in this platform, I think we're going to create a new synergy and a new energy, and we give a new impetus, because I think together we are going to make that difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Noel, for your very inspiring and energizing commitment to the Laudato Si Action Platform, Sowing Hope for the Planet, which is an initiative of UISG. So thank you for mentioning that as well. And it's really clear that you've been very involved in building relationships and opportunities for other people to grow as well. Your leadership as a provincial and all your ministry to those in need and tender care certainly shows itself in the way that you engage others in this whole process. So thank you for your leadership also in the commission and with your congregation.
Thanks, Gina.
Now we're going to turn to Father Booty Clayton. He's the Superior General of the Society of the Divine Word. He has done doctoral studies in systematic theology in Freiburg, Germany, parish ministry in Switzerland and teaching in the seminary in Indonesia. So he's going to join us by video to share his congregational's commitment to a Laudato Si action platform. So Father Booty, we are here to listen to what you have to share. Thank you.
I am Budi Kleden, the Superior General of the SPD, the Society of the Divine Word. Dear friends, our common home is endangered. The climate change caused by human action is linked with the natural disasters that everyone has experienced around the world. Together with you and your congregations, also we, the SVDs, shouldn't be indifferent to the destruction of the earth. Our last general chapter makes a clear statement on our responsibility to the care for nature as our common home. It says, creation is a sign of God's love for us. Care for the environment is not only part of our mission, it is also part of our heritage. The world, the church, and also our congregation are not lacking beautiful and inspiring statements. However, more important and the more challenging part is to put into practice our beautiful statements. We as congregation have decided to join the whole church in the initiative Laudato Si Action Platform. Listen to the cry of the earth and listen to the cry of the poor is an imperative for us as Christians. For the launching of the initiative on October 4th, we sent a video message from the Superior General to all the members of the congregation. We encourage our conference and lay partners around the world to organize community meetings and, based on the 4 pillars of the action platform, formulate an action plan that responds to the cry of our common home. Then they should make it public and try to implement it. Some steps we have done. The leadership team of the congregation has created a Laudato Si working group that has developed an instrument to be used by our communities and lay partners to elaborate their action plans according to their own context. A circular letter with this instrument was sent to all our provinces. In our website, we have created a special area where we are sharing all the relevant materials, videos, posters, good practices, official statements, etc. We also have registered our congregation in the platform, and we are expecting that our communities will do it soon. To achieve the first goal of Laudato Si, response to the cry of the earth, we are also committed to the energy transition. Therefore, several communities and institutions have already solar panels, hybrid cars, and are practicing the recycling and segregation of waste. In terms of investments, our Steiler Ethik Bank in Germany is an example on green investment, avoiding investing in companies which are not friendly to the environment. The Council of Ethics of the bank gather 2 times a year to decide what companies can enter into portfolio on those that have to be excluded. In partnership with other religious congregations, dioceses, NGOs, and other movements, the SPD strives to defend the local communities from being displaced from their land because of mining and agricultural projects, which destroys the environment and their livelihood. On this regard, it is important the role of Vivat International, an NGO founded by the SPD along with the SSPS sisters, and now composed of 12 congregations. Vivat International has special consultative status with the ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, and is associated with the United Nations Department of Public Information. Members of Vivat can work with the organization to bring to the attention of the UN the situations of injustice experienced in their respective place of mission. They can speak up for those who are voiceless at the international arena of human rights, engaging with Human Rights Council and other human rights mechanisms. On the grassroots, there are many initiatives going on, like Laudato Si group, whose members gather to clean the coastal areas in Hong Kong, bamboo planting, eco-farm, protection of the environment and disaster response and risk management in the Philippines, tree planting and plastic cleaning in several countries, etc. The dicastery for promoting integral human development divided the church in 7 sectors, and the SPD can find itself in all of them. Therefore, our challenge is not only our religious communities, but also parishes, schools, and universities, hospitals, NGOs, and banks, how to animate them to join Laudato Si Action Platform. Let us together save our common home. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Booty, for taking us all the way through all of the goals and also the different sectors out of which you are involved. And we've experienced the way you've been strategic in terms of planning your efforts and sharing the work that you're doing from your congregation as well as with other partners as well. So thank you for that effort. So it's important for us to share the integrity of our 2 leaders in terms of the work that we're trying to do with Laudato Si Action Platform. And to help us in this process, because it is learning, we've already seen there's a number of questions that are being raised, that we will have 4 people kind of monitoring the chat box. Father Andreas Goprat, who is a missionary of from Africa, one of the White Fathers, will be dealing with French. Brother Alberto, from a Comboni missionary, will be dealing with the Italian. Catalina, who is here in the office, will be dealing with the Spanish. And again, Father Joseph will be looking at the English. So we'll be looking at what are some of your questions and have an opportunity to answer as many as we can, but for sure, there will be responses to you because we are learning, as we go along. And as was said by Sister Noel, we're looking at, some things that we need to be improving on, and it is you that is giving us some insights. So with that, it's important to now go to the enrollment platform for the Laudato Si actions. And we're going to be looking now at some of the technical efforts, where there have been some improvement that's been taking place. We're really working and building on the work that's already been done with our congregations, respecting that. And then there's some other suggestions that you may want to look at, and that there is available on that website. Again, it's the website for the enrollment. And so to help us deepen our understanding of this platform, Maureen Villanueva is going to be sharing with us this experience. She has a background in terms of the engagement manager for the Laudato Si Action movement, has been working with all of our 7 sectors. She has a background in organizational development and change, and has used that experience in many innovative ways with education, nonprofit organization, and now then with the religious art sector. So please, Maureen, would you take us forward in this development of this plan?
Sure, thank you. And I will be sharing now my screen. Well, thank you and good day to everyone. A pleasure being here with you. A pleasure to meet you and to see this leadership from your sector. It has been really amazing, and glad and excited to be today with you to guide you through this process. It's really important for us that you might get to get the key topics of the platform so that you could also get to encourage your communities and congregations on board. As well as nice to meet you because I could be the contact person. If you have any specific detail or anything that you might need help, please, I will also share my email at the last of the presentation. Okay, so and well, as mentioned before, thanks to the introduction of Sister Noel and Father Beauty, who talked greatly about what the platform itself is. So I won't go very deep on what the platform actually goes from all the process. But the importance of your leadership, it's really crucial. We're truly grateful for your interest and your participation. The idea and the objective for this specific time for me is to share and to communicate technical information about the platform so that you can get a deep understanding of it, and looking forward to encourage your participation. We'll be addressing the most frequent question of enrollment process and the platform itself. This would be the general topics that we will be talking today. The enrollment, the process, the dashboard. These are keywords of the platform: process, self-assessment, suggested action, reflection, the Laudato Si plan. We would also talk about some other sections on the dashboard and some of the latest updates. So as you already know, the Laudato Si Action platform is an action-oriented 7-year ecological conversion journey, of course, in the spirit of integral ecology. It would be intended to support and empower our families, communities, and institutions to achieve total sustainability. It is a program which is associated to a website, encouraging to equip Catholic institutions, and looking forward to respond to this triple cry: the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, the cry of our children, and the cry of our future generations. So we have the Laudato Si goals as a guide, and we are inviting all of us to participate, especially these 7 sectors in which, of course, religious take the leadership and are accounted. It is sponsored by the Vatican's Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, and it has been developed with a ground-up approach. It's been a synodal process in partnership with diverse Catholic people and institutions. We are working on bringing everyone to the table into this action to our common home and for our brothers and sisters. As Pope Francis mentioned in the encyclical, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So it's really a gift of God that we are all involved in the project. So once you have enrolled, why the enrollment on the Laudato Si Action platform? By enrolling, you will be joining a community of a global community into a journey to full sustainability. And by this, you are committing to create your own Laudato Si plans. You are the experts on your community, so you are the ones that would be creating your own Laudato Si plans, having as a tool the Laudato Si Action platform. By enrolling, you will be having access to a personalized dashboard to plan your Laudato Si journey, and you will be also having access for some other resources. You will have access to your annual self-assessment to see how you've been, to see and to measure your progress from year to year. You will also see a list of suggested actions, which would be helpful in a practical way to make progress. Also, the planning guides, which are some documents that would help you reflect, act, and to evaluate toward your Laudato Si goals. And you will also have direct contact with community of peers and accompaniment from all organizations, specifically the ones that are considered as point of reference. So for those of you who have been following the platform, you might recall that the platform was announced in May 2020 during the Laudato Si special anniversary. A year later, in May 2021, it was officially launched by His Holiness Pope Francis, and communities were invited to embark in this journey by making the pledge. Last November 14, on the World Day of the Poor, the platform was open for enrollment with the Laudato Si Action plans now available. In these last weeks, since it was launched, 2,781 institutions and people have made their commitment in developing their Laudato Si plans, with a total of 442 religious communities and 166 religious congregations. So it's a large number, and hoping with the grace of God to keep increasing. During this year and the next one, we will be, of course, making some updates and making some, also uploading some library resources, which are being provided by our partners. Events like these ones would also be promoted. And well, the idea to keep building community within this platform. So if you haven't had the chance to access to the website of the platform, here the link. The platform is available in 9 different languages. You can now see it in English, Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese, German, Polish, also Swahili and Tagalog. So this is available for a lot of languages around the world. So there are some specific sections of the platform which are now available. If you haven't made the enrollment, there are some sections which you can already see. At the About section, you will learn about what is it, its elements, and the 7 sectors, and some of the most frequently asked questions. You would also see more and learn more about the Laudato Si goals. You would see a description of each one. Also the community section. In this place, you will see other reflections and plans of communities that have agreed to share them. So you will also get inspired to see what others have been doing, and also know the partners who have contributed with their experience and wisdom in the development of the platform. Meet the steering board, know who the working group leaders and members are as for our sectors right now. And you will see also a section of articles of the Laudato Si Action Platform community. You will see some very inspiring and interesting stories, Laudato Si stories from all around the world. Also, you will see the place of the section of resources, which is the one that I mentioned that would be interesting for knowing all of the resources that our partners have been graciously sharing. And there is a generous amount of them about practices, about prayer service, about education. You might see them in each goal and sector. And also you will see the events where you can find some of the ones that are most related to the topic that would help you grow and reflect on your Laudato Si journey. All of this is available just by visiting the website. So as previously mentioned, for those who would like to commit to create their own Laudato Si plan, to join this global community and to start taking action into this crisis that we are living, of course that you have already made some extraordinary work, but now we are trying to make us all work together in a community. We invite you now to make the enrollment. Just to make a clarification, right now our developers are making an adjustment in some of the sections. So right now, within this day, there would be a time for us to make this update. So right now, we invite you to maybe enroll on Monday, since we can make these adjustments on our webpage, but you will be guided through this PowerPoint here. So you need to make a visit to the platform and click on enroll to get access to this specific place. And once you click enroll, you will be asked some basic information, including a password to create an account. You may also select the language in which you would like to participate. And well, just to clarify that there is a difference between pledge and enrollment. For those of you who have already known about it, before November 14, you were able to go on the website and make what was called the pledge. But if you haven't come after November 14, we invite you now to make the enrollment. This would be the official way to participate on the platform. the way that you can know easily if you have made the enrollment is that when you start on login, you will be asked a password. So if you have already developed this password and share this information, you will now have a clear idea of that you are already enrolled. So just to clarify, pledge would be different from enrollment. So those who have made already the pledge would need to come back and please make the enrollment here. There would be a part that you will be asked if you would like to share or be your contact information public. So if you would like to, just you need to click yes, and you will be asked for some specific information. Now, which sector should I enroll and when I create an account? So just to mention that the platform is intended for individual and corporate commitment. So in the sector of individuals and families is to enroll, as it says, for families and individuals. So you are welcome to register yourself as an individual in this sector, maybe to share your own personal experience to integral ecology. But the other ones are committed for a corporal commitment. So for example, if you would like to register your congregation, it would be as a community level, sharing the information as a community. But if any case you make an accidental registration on any other sector, you could please contact us and we will help you in this specific thing. So as for religious, you would see two options: religious congregation and religious local communities. Working together with the religious sector, they have shared that this would be important to make a difference. The difference between religious congregation as religious order, provinces, and institutes as a leadership level or a global level, and the religious local communities, which would be dedicated for local religious communities. Well, one of the things that also was mentioned, it would be important to first gather to talk about it as a congregation, and then to define what the process would be as a community, and then to communicate this to your religious local communities. So the experience for religious congregations, provinces, and institutes would be mainly upon how they are supporting and of course making this commitment as a corporal organization. But how do you support your local communities? It would be helpful to define this plan, as I've mentioned before, a timeline, inviting your local communities to participate, as well as a strategy to how to communicate their enrollment on the Laudato Si Action platform. It would be important to define a contact person, which would also be important to share the email, because you can, this person would be, could be receiving the self-assessment of the local religious communities of their participation within the platform. So that would be kind of like the important thing to be done before the enrollment. And then for the religious local communities, you will also be asked if you would like to share the answers of your self-assessment to a representative of your congregation and their email address. So there needs to be a communication between both so that they could know which would be the contact email and person. For national and international offices, we will be glad to help and keep the conversation one-on-one to help and collaborate closely on what you might be needing. If you might need like a list of names, or to know if who have been participating, or any specific need, please, we can keep the conversation on a one-on-one conversation. As for your support for the commitment, Sowing Hope for the Planet have developed some extraordinary resources which are available at their website, which would be really helpful on your journey, including a brief summary with suggestions about how to develop this initiative in your congregation and communities, the letter to major superiors, and a commitment letter as a public document to express your commitment in the Laudato Si Action platform that should be addressed to the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Ecology, Integral Human Development, and you could also find some other very relevant resources. So once you have enrolled, you can have access to your account, and to confirm, you will also be receiving an email confirmation about this enrollment. You would receive also in that email a message about a confirmation of your account, but it would be only that we will be getting in contact with you just to make clear that the enrollment was done correctly. So you might see that you will now, instead of clicking to enroll, you will now need to be clicking on login, and you will be asked for your user and password. Once enrolled and once accessing and logging in, you will see this as your main dashboard, which include on the top the main menu, the dashboard itself, which includes the self-assessment, the reflection, and the Laudato Si plan. And at the bottom, you will see the complete full planning guide, which is a planning guide which has been developed with the help of extraordinary religious communities. You will see the complete section in this part, also a section only for reflection and only a section for Laudato Si plan. It is now available on the website for you to get a little bit more of information about these specific steps. So the process of the enrollment or after the process of enrollment, what would be the interaction of the platform? There would be three main specific steps. It would be firstly the self-assessment, then the reflection, and then the Laudato Si plan. So these would be the three main steps that are requested to become and to remain a Laudato Si congregation, community, institution, or provinces for the next years to come. As a first step, you will be invited to answer the self-assessment. You can first read the information about it. We are going to soon upload a preview of the questions that you will be asked. We have sent them already to the working group members, but it will be now available on the website so that you will have a clear idea of the questions that you will be asked. So this would be the first step once you get enrolled. So getting deeper on the self-assessment, it would be annual. Once you answered it, you won't need to answer it that same year, you will just answer it the next year. And it includes questions about your current practices around the Laudato Si goals. It would be useful as part of your reflection. It might take 40 to 30 minutes to get this information there. And as mentioned before, you will find some sample questions that will help you gather this information previously. Some of the questions that you will be having, firstly, you will be asked your contact and location information. There will be also, if you would like to share your answers or your self-assessment to a representative or of your congregation, only for religious local communities, they will be asked in this section if they would like to share their information to their congregation or to their province. Then there will be questions that will help you understand your context. These questions are loosely drawn from the United Nations Human Development Index, which is a standard tool that helps analyze differences and understand regional context. There are no right or wrong questions. There are only questions to simply understand your context in order to provide information that is relevant for the purpose. After that, then you will be asked information of how you use your resources. For example, how much electricity, water, heating, petrol or gas, the kind of food you have been serving, specifically meat, maybe the meals with meat per week that you have been serving. As you know, carbon dioxide is related to the consumption of meat. Whether you have planted trees, if you have incorporated some themes about Laudato Si in your prayers and in spiritual initiatives, or whether you have participated in trainings, and some other general questions. So there is a save button like this image here, in which there is a save button in which you will be saving your progress on this information. And at the end of the self-assessment, you will be receiving a report with the record of your self-assessment, including a carbon footprint, which will be very useful. And you are very welcome to share this report to anyone, right? And as much as it's helpful for you, as you can keep it a year-to-year information on how has been your progress. As mentioned, it would only be once a year, and you would be generally asked the same questions. As this image in this site is an example of how the self-assessment would look. And we hope that this is a helpful tool for your understanding on your planning. Once you start and complete each section, it will appear and change in a green color, and also a check mark will be appearing. Once you answer this self-assessment, you will be able to see the list of suggested actions. And in the near future, you will be receiving this report. This is something that we are working on, and something that looks like similar to this, and with the answers to all of your questions. As mentioned before, we are working on making these adaptations on the self-assessment for congregational level, as mentioned before by some of the working group members, and it is something that we will be soonly get done. After finishing, you will also see the list of suggested actions. As you are co-creator of your future, you would be selecting the ones that would be specific and right for you. And of course, these are only offered in the spirit of helpfulness. Select the ones that you consider that would be impactful for your Laudato Si journey and your practices. And they are suggested. You can select the ones that you would like to develop. Now, the second step would be the reflection. You are invited to upload your reflection as a video or as a document, as how your values and mission connect with the Laudato Si goals. You would also select if you would like them to be public, and well, it would be helpful to develop or strengthen the process on your community to take action, and also an opportunity to celebrate your progress. For the reflection, you will be able to share, as mentioned before, either a video or a document. As a video, it would be a URL of YouTube, in which you have previously shared your video. And there would be an important question if you would like your information to be public. This way, other congregations and other participants would see your information, and also to help getting inspired and to see this whole community of action. Finally, when you copy the URL and you agree or disagree to share it, then you need to click finally in share it. Now, for documents, you are able to share PDF, PowerPoints, Word, maybe a JPEG about some infographics. Also, if you would like to agree, firstly, you need to choose it, and finally, then you will need to upload it. And the final step would be the Laudato Si plan. In this section, in the three main sections, you would see some documents that would be helpful, that would guide you, and you would also previously see some other reflections and some other plans of others, so that you can get an idea. And also some documents that would give you a guide through this process, how to develop your plan, for example. But if you have already started a process, you are warmly invited to upload the one that you have already started. So you don't need to start from zero. If you have a previous plan developed, you are very welcome to share the one that you have already started. So after considering where you stand today with the self-assessment, reviewing the list of suggested actions, and reflecting on your values, you are invited to create your plan. You are the expert on your needs and priorities, so warmly invited to create what is best for you. This would be the section on how to upload your plan. As mentioned before, this could be a PDF, a Word, PowerPoint, or JPEG. And also inviting if you would like to be public. And finally, sharing and uploading it. So once you finish the 3 steps on your dashboard, you would be seeing that all of the 3 now are in green color and all with the check mark. And after this step, this would be the 3 steps that are required. You will finish your yearly progress, requested to become or to remain as a religious congregation, institution, or provinces. And well, it's really a joyful way to share and to make a celebration as you have shared your commitment. In addition, an annual global celebration would be led by the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development and other co-leaders, recognizing all of you who have been into this journey, into this global celebration. But of course, you are welcome invited to hold local events to celebrate this co-leadership. So your commitment to caring for our common home is a sign of hope for all. So Laudato Si for that. You are also welcome to explore some other parts of the platform, which would be the Building Together section, in which you will see some others that have started their process to build sister relationship, to start networking, to share your stories. So this is one of the greatest things also of the platform, building community, which is the key part of all, right? So what would be next after this webinar? As mentioned before, we invite you to first talk and discern as a community on how will your participation be, and then start the enrollment process. As you know, congregations, local communities will be asked for this email. So it would be important for them to have this information previously, as some of the questions that you would be asked for the self-assessment. You are invited. I mean, just remember that the first step would be self-assessment, then the reflection, and then Laudato Si plan. But you are now welcome also to check during your journey the resources and the events that would help you on your journey. For just our last points, there would be, we would like to share some updates and soon to come on the platform. A save button is now available as an updates. A save button is now available for the self-assessment, so then you can stop, pause, step away, and return whenever you would like to continue on the questions that are related to your resources and practices. Currencies from all over the world can now be used on this self-assessment. More resources have been added to the resource library, and events will be coming soon. And for the soon to come, well, we will also have these regular scheduled webinars talking specifically on enrollment and helping on your progress, so feel free to attend. We will be glad to share soon through Sowing Hope for the Planet the list of the new webinars for helping you in this process. An updated format for your self-assessment report that will also be ready and to be able to be shared to others. A section for the most frequently asked questions, and also a Google form for doubts, for specific doubts on the platform. And also we are having now a process on feedback. We have shared to the working group members a feedback survey, and it would also be shared to the participants that have already enrolled. So from my side, this would be all. I hope that this presentation would be helpful, but of course, glad to keep the conversation, to keep receiving your feedback. This would be the first year of the platform. We are really excited about all of the motivation and the commitment. Of course, this is an inspiring process of iteration. We are iterating and of course, working and building together a better future for all. Thank you, and glad to collaborate and keep the conversation.
Thank you, Maureen, for this tremendous work. This was developed by a number of questions that were presented to Maureen. And as you can see, this is certainly a global effort, certainly a universal effort, you know, across all of our sectors, and a way to really move our church along and our partners along in a way that we can feel connected to one another and make a strategic difference. So Maureen, thank you so much for pulling all of this together. Your background experience is obvious in terms of organizational development and the planning. So thank you. We will have Sister Jacinta, who is one of our congregations, who both filled out the congregational level as well as one as the local community level. And so she's going to share that experience, and then we'll have some time for some questions for sure. So she is a member of the Institute of the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians. She's from Timor-Leste in Indonesia area. You see her greeting Pope Francis, or Pope Francis greeting her there. He made a surprise visit to their chapter in terms of their involvement in the Laudato Si Action platform. So that's a very happy occasion for her and for the congregation. She has a background in nursing and social communication and pedagogy, and she's worked with the diocesan pastoral team, teaching in the seminary and schools, and now is currently helping and coordinating this platform and also with the social communication. So Sister will be speaking to us then today about what that congregation has been doing and what it intends to do. So please, Sister Jacinta. She'll be speaking in Italian. So if you don't know Italian, please have another look at the interpretation below and check the language you need. Sister Jacinta, please.
Ok. Ho visto lì che c'è la mia consorella, Sor Elena Rastello, che è della pastorale giovanile.
I've seen my sister from youth ministry. She's following this webinar. Hello, sister. So our experience of our enrollment in the platform is a journey we've been doing since 2016 when Laudato Si was published. So we've already been working for a few years now. And after celebrating the anniversary of Laudato Si, Pope Francis has called for the Laudato Si anniversary year. And so we joined with the whole institute. Our Mother General and her council urged us to embark on this journey, as you've already said, because we need to be stronger in our response. So this worldwide process is fully in line with the orientations of the General Chapter, the 23rd General Chapter, and the preparation for the 24th General Chapter. In the 23rd chapter, we were already oriented to bring about the ecological conversion in our communities, so that we could see the wonders of creation. So we were on a journey of sober life and simple life. Now, I will only speak for my own community. So the invitation of Pope Francis became a statement of our 24th General Chapter, as you can see there. our message was the following one. The chapter assembly allowed itself to be challenged by the cry of the young, the poor, and the land, and decided to involve the whole institute in a concrete and continuous journey of conversion to integral ecology, taking on the 7 objectives of Laudato Si in the spirit of the preventive system. And since this is a resolution, we are all called to realize it. And that's why the youth ministry of our institute helped us go on this journey. We received the guidelines with the steps to be taken to register as a family, an organization, a university, an educational institute. So we received these guidelines. As Maureen has explained, we've taken those steps enrolling in this platform. As I said, after enrolling online, we registered as an institute, as a community, as associations, for example, as the Salesian Youth Ministry, and as school. We registered. So all the communities are registered. We haven't registered yet as a family due to COVID and the lockdown. It was not possible to gather.
Con l'iscrizione dobbiamo inviare una lettera.
These are the guidelines Sister Rastella has sent us and her council. Then we've sent an official letter to the prefect of the Dicastery for the Service of Integral Human Development. And this is the example of our letter, the letter that we've sent. We signed that letter and sent it to the Youth Ministry office to be forwarded to the Vatican. And then after registering, we were called to the self-assessment. As a matter of fact, we had already done something in that sense, and so it was easier to complete the self-assessment function on the Laudato Si action platform. For example, as water is concerned, or sometimes we do not have power in our communities, so we fill water containers. So that helps us understand how much water we use in 2 days. That will be 5,000 liters of water. So because we have those containers where we collect water. As far as the power is concerned, we know how much power we consume, with the bill, and the same goes for the meat that we eat. We know how much meat we eat thanks to our bursar. my leader also is very much helped by our bursar, who takes note of the things that we consume. And so we could have some good feedback that is very useful to plan or replan our activities in order to achieve LS goals. Now, what we've done, we celebrate an annual assembly. So there we plan together, and now we are waiting. We were about to start working on our next planning. So what we've chosen for 2022 is the following, like to eliminate the use of disposable plastics, install solar panels in new constructions, promote local products. In my community, we also have a library and the teacher's office. So promote local products, seek out and share prayers and reflections on ecological spirituality with the community. During the Sisters' annual retreat, devote a moment of reflection, which we call Good Night, each evening on each of the objectives of Laudato Si. That is 7. It takes 7 days, as a matter of fact. At the level of the communities, we deepen the encyclical Laudato Si and the Fratelli Tutti, because integral ecology means not to discard the poor and the needy. And then composting, manage water drainage, all that have to do with the 7 Laudato Si objectives. We've been celebrating the season of creation for 2 years now, I think, and we plan a liturgical celebration whereby we ask for forgiveness, and then charity, cleaning our village, planting trees in dry areas, and then we celebrate, because we have many young people, and it is very easy to involve them in these things, as they love, the social action, they love nature, they love celebrating and praying in the midst of nature. Now, these are just a few pictures of our works. It is not easy to involve all the communities, because, sometimes it is just difficult, as you've said in some of the questions that have come up in the chat box, but our congregation invited all of us as sisters, because this comes from a resolution of our general chapter. Thank you, sisters. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sister Jacinta, for helping us see the process of your congregation, the Salesian family, the sisters, which is the largest community of religious women that we have in our church. And then seeing the ways that you're trying to connect the overall view of the congregational framework with what's happening on the local level. Because as we know, some things on the local level are able to go ahead of the process that the whole congregation can begin to engage in. So this was very carefully thought through, and you helped us see, in reality, what Maureen was talking about when we were looking at the overall plan of the Laudato Si action platform. So thank you very much for that work and for the work of your congregation to make this such a reality for us. Thank you. Okay. So we can have time for maybe one question from each of the language groups before we move on to the next session. So, and I know there's been many in the box, but some of them have been answered as a way of going forward in the other presentations or some of the information that was shared. And again, if we don't get to your question, we will find a way to make sure that that is publicized for yourselves. So Father Joseph, is there a question, one of the questions that you would like to raise for the group?
Yeah, there are many of them.
But
So
choose
let's
one,
see.
you have to choose one of them.
Okay, let's see. You can choose one. So, as an individual, could video be as simple as a video from one's phone? So somebody is asking advice to Maureen how to upload a video footage. So does it have to be a professional video or just a simple video with your iPhone or your smartphone?
That's right. It could be a simple video, either both. It could be a professional or a simple video, but there is no restriction about it.
Okay, thank you. The questions we're taking are from the chat box. So it's the different facilitators who are asking these questions. So Brother Alberto, is there a question from the Italian group? Can't hear you. Okay.
Non ti
No.
sento.
Okay, nothing. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. There are two questions which are actually connected. The question is, when registering a congregation, how can we respond to questions which are so precise for the whole congregation? Is it possible to differentiate the answers by different countries? Take the case of international congregation. And also on a practical level, when we have to feed all these questions, into the system, is it possible to receive all the questions ahead of time so that we can first collect from the different countries the information and then key in the information all together?
Okay. Maureen, do you want to answer that question now or wait? Go ahead, please.
As you wish.
Why don't you go ahead and respond to that, please?
Okay. So for having a previous knowledge of what you are going to be asked for the self-assessment, as mentioned before, we have developed a PDF document so that you can have a preview of the relevant information that you would be asked. So it would be helpful. It is already available on 9 different languages, so you can see it ahead of time before sitting and answering the self-assessment. So yes, you can see that. We have already shared it with the working group sectors, but it would be soon to be uploaded in the next days on the platform. And for the other question about the way that the questions are asked for congregations or institution or provinces level, yes, the ideal is to be sharing that information at that level and congregations on their own local level. We understand that some of you have shared that it would be complicated to have that information on that specific level. So we are inviting, either if you have that information or if you don't have it, you can just click that you don't have it, so you can go ahead of that question. But we are going to work on that part as you have several shared that experience, and to try to make it as a need of this level needs to be done.
Thank you, Maureen. A question from the Spanish group, please.
Okay, I will do it in Spanish. La pregunta es sobre
The
la...
question is on the self-assessment, and it says if you want to go through the self-assessment with the data from the congregation, is it possible to do it? Because this is from where the plan is actually created. So do you have to send this to the responsible of each provinces, and then can you answer on a platform as a synthesis for everyone, or not at a personal level? I mean, can you have the self-assessment to share with the different provinces? Well, yes, the idea would be, well, we already have the questions that are being asked, so perhaps you may have the opportunity to have more questions beforehand, before you have to actually fill them in. That would be very helpful. So the intention is to have the congregation and the local communities to enroll, to have like an increment to see, I mean, how many people are actually adhering to this initiative. So the ideal would be that each local communities are able to register, to enroll.
I'm sorry, Maureen, can you debrief that in English rapidly? Thank you.
Okay. They asked that Maureen speak this in English, please. Pachi.
Should I repeat? Should I repeat it in English?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So for the questions, it was the question again about the previous questions that you would be asked, if there would be available for them, or for us to have them ready. And the other one was if a congregation could have all the information of their local communities, but and then upload it as a congregation level. We are inviting that each local community register itself on the platform, and that the congregation also registers on the platform and upload their own information. But I think also it's up to you, whatever you think is best. But we're encouraging for each local community to register, but as you best consider for.
I think it also needs to be said that some of these questions will also be reviewed in the sectors, because I think that's a lot to ask Maureen to be able to answer for everyone. There will certainly be dialogue, but maybe some input also from the religious sector helping move the platform forward would be a good idea too as well. And she's present for us in those meetings. Andreas, do you have a question, please?
I'll choose one question. Is it possible to have Maureen's presentation so we can read it again and share it with our members? It is important. The information given was very important, and we would love to have access to it.
So sorry, I understood that if the presentation would be available for them?
Exactly. That's the question.
We would also have on, as was shown by Maureen, on the Sowing Hope for the Planet, there is also a section just for the Laudato Si Action platform. And all that Maureen has been sharing would be able to be uploaded on that site as well. So we were trying to help move forward the Laudato Si Action platform, but also provide some specific helps that will be necessary for our congregations. See? Okay, thank you. Is that okay, Maureen? For that to say that. Let me just ask, as I'm trying to, we have a second part to this presentation. How many questions do you have, Joseph?
There are quite a few.
Okay. All right. And I guess my question would be, I think to continue on with is there a question in there that you think that Maureen needs to answer?
Okay, I'm trying
Either
to
we have to answer.
reorganize them. Some she answered during the presentation.
Okay.
But then there are some, many are.
Okay, let me ask Alberto and Andreas the same question, and Catalina. Is there anything there that you would ask that Maureen needs to answer and that she hasn't already presented in her with her talk? Okay.
There is one question about the registration process, because someone registered individually, but then they have the problem when they want to register as a congregation. So how to deal with that, because they have problems then to fill out the information as a congregation.
I would think that question needs to go directly to Maureen, and that has to be that's a technical problem that they would have to fix. So
yeah, and Michelle, there was a similar question also, almost the same question also in English. People were trying to enroll, register. They start as individual, and then the response is to the congregation.
Yeah. So again, that's a question for Maureen, and that I mean for the technical aspect, right, Maureen, for that to be figured out. Yeah,
and
that's what
we need to give specific follow-up on that. So I will copy back again my email on the chat box. So please, we can help you specifically with that.
Okay.
Maureen, I have copied all the questions, so we'll just collate them and then send them to you by email.
Okay, thank you. And Andreas, the same for you. Okay. Did you see this is a work in progress, and we're moving along, and you can see all that we've been able to accomplish. So thank you, and thank you for our facilitators with these questions, and Maureen for your sharing, and also for Sister Jacinta for highlighting the work of their congregation. So thank you.
Sheila, Isabel has her hand raised.
The questions need to come to the chat box.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the second part, and we're dealing with the Synod and about our relationship. So how do we work then with the Laudato Si Action Platform with the Synod process? And so it's about community engagement. So we had a meeting then with the Synod group. And so I'm kind of going to go through this kind of rapidly. So at that meeting, there was the exchange. You see Father Jostrom there, who is the leader then of the Laudato Si Action Platform, and Sister Natalie, who is the Undersecretary for the Synod. And we were there trying to share with them what is it that's happening with Laudato Si Action Platform, and also in the dynamic then of the Synod. And the way that we wanted to show our engagement is through the work that we have been doing on our mapping. And in the previous time, we shared what was going on with the environment because the biodiversity conference was supposed to happen. And then we had done some sharing then in terms of the climate for COP26. And then we went on then, now we're looking at the mining, because with the alternative energy sources, mining is coming to the fore. So we say mining and networking is will be considered at the gatherings at the Synod, particularly in some of the countries most affected by the use of their resources. So it's a way of listening to their problems, discerning what they need to do, come up with some concrete responses, and being able to promote the gospel in the whole process of that, which we know is a part of the Synod. So to help us move forward with the language then in terms of advocacy, we've asked Neil Thorns from CAFORD, who is a director of advocacy and communications. And his work is really rooted in the grassroots of poverty and looking at policies, national and international. And he's the chair of the Climate Coalition. So we want to ask Neil to help us look at how can we be more strategic with our advocacy work. And we had 3 cases that came forward from Sister Ann, who has worked with indigenous populations, Sister Nathalie that's worked in the Congo, and Marian Comfort who's worked with the Mercy Sisters, then in more of a global sphere. So Neil, please help us understand more carefully what it is that we can do to advocate. And then we will have a video that will be stopped where Neil will kind of give some suggestions as to what could be affirmed and ways to move forward. So Neil, please begin. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much, Sister Sheila. Thanks very much all for your time as well. It's a real pleasure to be with you all. So because time is quite tight, I'm just going to forget some of the pleasantries and go on to a bit more of the concrete details, if you like. So I think it's been brilliant to hear all about the Laudato Si Action Platform, certainly something that CAFOD as an organization is very supportive of. And as we all know, within Laudato Si, it asks us those questions about the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor and the causes, and that those causes are often interlinked in terms of the root causes of it. So in terms of what I'm just going to prompt today about, I'm just going to share with you a few thoughts which you can kind of have in your mind as you watch and listen to the 3 excellent case studies which we've got going forward. And the comments that I make are made with true humility, because I have to confess that throughout the years that I've been working on advocacy, working with religious organizations has always been a highlight. And I'm not sure I have a huge amount to tell you. I think the opposite may well be true from my experience. But anyway, it's helpful sometimes to hear it, I guess, from other people. So the things which I guess I want to prompt you to think about when you hear these next case studies is, because we understand what advocacy is. It's about, addressing those root causes. Who do you need to influence to make the change that you want to see come about? And who do you want to work with to make that achievement, to achieve that? So in terms of these following stories, the first thing I think is about really thinking about what the problem or the issue is, because often the immediate problem is right in front of us, and that might be the awful situation, especially when it comes to extractive companies, is about people being thrown off their land, human rights defenders being imprisoned, or much worse in many situations. And that's the immediate things which are in front of us, as well as the environmental impacts. But what's the root cause which is driving the fact that those businesses and corporations are being allowed to do that? And actually, if you look back up higher up the chain in terms of what can we do to stop it, and if we can do something there, it has an impact across many countries. So the national stuff is really important, but understanding also what the real root causes are, and the fact that, as Laudato Si says, a lot of this stuff is interconnected. There's never one clear, easy way of addressing this and thinking about it. And really importantly, as the pandemic and as the climate crisis has shown, that we must work together in this. So we must work together with grassroots communities, but we must all work around the global family, because so much of our world is now interconnected. So really understanding what the real problem and issue is that you need to address is the first thing. And then the second thing is just to think about is, how do you create change, and what's the unique contribution that you might make to it? So how do you create change isn't easy, and it's not always the kind of perfect, easy mechanism that you've got to do it. And the second thing is, what's the unique contribution that we can all give? So for example, at CAFOD, we would say generally our unique contribution is Catholic social teaching. We can speak out on the basis of principle and faith and belief, and it gives us a kind of moral voice. So that's really important for us. We're part of one church, so we can reach from local into the global. So the local communities, but also then bringing that into the highest institutions such as the UN and others. And that we, as part of one church, the congregations, certainly in England and Wales and the UK, would want to speak out on behalf of justice issues, but they would also want to pray and they want to stand in solidarity with those things as well. So that's really important as well, thinking about that interconnectedness that we have as one church going forward and how we can best use that network, if you like, to bring about good and bring about change. So if I can ask you to think about those two things, and as Sister Sheila says, I'll just come in on each of those videos and just give a bit of an experience of those. So if we could see the first video, that would be great.
Okay.
I have to mention a bit about indigenous peoples because they are very much connected with the land. I work in the southern part of the Philippines with the Sabanan peoples. I saw and experienced a culture that is pure, sustainable, and deeply connected with nature. So when I got to know the people and the culture, one thing that really struck me right away was that they were very present with the moment, simply, and just with the basics. When the settlers, I'll call them Visayan culture, came, they bought some of the Sabanon land cheaply. And unfortunately, because of lack of education, most of the Sabanon sold their lands and they moved up higher ground to settle. So the settlers used chemical fertilizers and plant twice a year or even 3 times to produce more. And this method, of course, slowly destroyed the land and somehow gave a bad influence to the Sabanon people who learned to get attracted to gain more. So when I look at the reality now, I see the modernity and consumerism and lacking connection with Mother Earth are contrary to the values of the indigenous people. So I could see clearly how the indigenous people live and embrace the culture of interconnectedness with Mother Earth. They have beautiful values that we have destroyed, especially superpower countries because of greed and desire for acquisition of goods from the natural world, as if there's no more tomorrow or for future generation. The sisters have worked there for 3 decades and have developed a sense of trust among the people. So the presence of the missionaries were a great help actually, because the people were able to know their rights. They defended them from their government monetary vested interest towards mining companies. And unfortunately, some local peoples were paid to campaign for pro-mining and even some of the Sabanon leaders were paid to agree on the side of the government. So in the late 90s, the sisters worked and the staff worked hard on giving education to people on the effects of mining, and we gathered a lot of signature campaigns. And the foreign mining companies from London, the Rio Tinto zinc companies, actually came to visit us together with the local government representatives. And by then we had gathered thousands of signatures from the people, so which was a blessing. So enticing promises were given like road construction, we will give you schools, will be built, and electricity to remote villages be provided. But the people were well aware of the consequences of deep pit mining because we had brought our leaders to visit some places in the Philippines who were very much affected by the mining company, and they saw the first-hand experience of what the mining has done. It stripped off the biodiversity, the water was contaminated, the rivers dried up, and peoples with skin and stomach diseases from the effect of the cyanide. So that strong no from the people with the support of the local bishop, us missionaries, local church, and some human rights lawyers were actually a great help that the mining applications were on hold. Of course, that was not easy. The mining companies changed names, made all kinds of strategies to continue to do bribery, but the people continued to be united, and we did ongoing pickets, lobbying at the national level, hunger strike, writing letters, going even to London to the Rio Tinto Zinc headquarters. 15 years, ongoing protests and writing petitions letters were done by the sisters. And luckily that prevented the approval of applications of various mining companies in the area until now. In our experience, I think one of the reasons why the mining applications didn't go ahead, because when we got the mining application from the mining companies, we were lucky that we were able to get a copy of those mining applications. So we studied and reviewed what are the clause of the memorandum of agreement of that mining companies with the government. It is within the government legal jurisdiction of what they said, and what are the promises that they said before, during, and after mining. Because in our experience of that nearby place, that they left the place in a mess, there was no rehabilitation that was in the memorandum of agreement. So that was really one thing that gives us a push to fight to the government. Look, you have to review the mining applications of these mining companies. You have to be very upfront, and if lucky, make network with people in the government, because not all in the government are pro-mining. Some would be. So in that sense, we have some connections that help us. We have a few priests and sisters in the diocese of the whole Philippines who is working with indigenous communities. So we really have a very good, strong group. We meet monthly to talk about what's happening in our areas, because the different areas have different realities. So how can we support with the indigenous people? And then we bring that with the bishop. We trained a lot of the local Subanon as our leaders to talk to their people. We have that. We trained local people, because they will listen to their own people. Then at the national level, all the indigenous people representatives also, we meet at least once a year. So it's really very helpful to be able to have that support. We need support. People from the grassroots need support also from there, because you people might be able to see that the bigger picture, because you can connect with the right people. So lastly, in my experience not working, ongoing education is very vital. And just looking at our own struggle now on the global cry to address the climate crisis mining, I really believe that we need to work and unite together at all levels, because this gigantic problem for me does not only affect a certain race, but all of us living in this only planet we have.
So that was an excellent input from Sister Anne. And if I could just pick out a couple of things which you heard there, and just to really flag, is I think what we heard really importantly was about that building of alliances and engagement. So how working with the Indigenous groups who shared their values, but also working with other groups in London, we heard, in terms of addressing Rio Tinto right from where they're registered, building up that local knowledge and education. So building up that case for support, building up the evidence base, and then thinking about how actually you're going to make change. And I think Sister Anne was brilliant in that what they did was they thought about, well, what are the existing channels? What are the channels which exist, which you can hold companies to account for? So things like the government contracts, understanding what's already in those government contracts and how you hold them, that accountability and transparency of them, what they've committed, coming back into London and thinking about shareholder meetings, but also thinking about, you heard hunger strikes, petitions, so ways in which you can kind of really bring about change, different mechanisms about doing that. And I think importantly is the fact of they recognise that not all in the government were pro-mining. So actually, how do you build your support? How do you build your friends? How do you work with your friends and go on that journey with them to try and bring about the change? So some really important key things, a wonderful example. So we're now just going to move on very quickly to Sister Natalie's one in DRC, which is also great.
Le secteur minier en République démocratique du Congo a été libéralisé.
The Congo was liberated in 2002, and since then there has been a great movement of large investors, large multinational companies that have come to settle in the town of Kolwezi to exploit the production of cobalt. And so when they came and the exploitation started, we really saw how the populations were affected. 60% of the world's cobalt comes from the Congo. And today, we are also talking more and more about renewable energies, which is one of the ways to achieve renewable energies, and the cobalt is proposed today as an alternative for them. This is to show you how much today's cobalt mining activities have really intensified in this part of the world. We are witnessing a systematic plundering of natural resources, and the environment is being destroyed in the way that Laudato Si presents it. There is an exploitation that is done at the expense of our future. We do not know what will remain for future generations. It is enough to arrive in the city of Coelce and to see how the environment is being transformed. And this is really the cry of the earth. The soil is being polluted, the environment destroyed. Apart from that, there is the impact on water, on air, on human lives, on people's health. These are major problems that we face today. The earth was a common good, the climate was a common good, but peace was also a common good. But when I look at the exploitation of the mines in the Congo, it is really a complex problem that combines the three problems: a problem in the relation to the land, to the environment, and to peace. I come back to tell you that the country has been at war for more than 20 years. There are millions of deaths, a lot of violence, and behind all this violence, there is the question of mines. One of the big problems is also poverty. The communities were left alone because nobody was able to help them. They did everything they could to go to court to be able to meet the people in charge of these companies. It was very difficult, and nobody listened to the voice of these affected people. Nobody came to the aid of these communities, especially when they tried to explain their misery, the misery in which they were living after these exploitations. They learned that there was a nun who was a lawyer by training who could intervene, and they came to her. And I found myself very small in the face of this situation. And at the time in the city, there was no organization that really dared to talk about these issues. We tried to accompany the communities. It was a long struggle. I think it was 2 years where, with the help of other international organizations, we were able to get reparations to these communities. It was a very small compensation, but at least we got it. It should be emphasized that as far as the issue of mining is concerned, the multinationals are big powers. And it is not always easy for the peasants or the local communities to confront them. Secondly, this is the problem of the government, often working in coalition with multinationals. And you know that we, at the civil society level, when we started to look at the mining contracts that we had in the country, we found big problems of corruption in these contracts. It's very difficult when the environment is destroyed or when the lives of the people affected are destroyed. The government has no say because sometimes they work with them in collaboration. in collaboration with the multinational companies. So a small group of 5 people who for years have been working together to help the people who are affected by the mining, but also to be able to talk to the people to raise awareness. And with Laudato Si, we have taken initiatives to talk about it. I started in my congregation. Today, there's a meeting at the level of the congregation, and I have been asked to speak about these questions. I showed images, issues, explored challenges. I am convinced that we must work today for ecological justice.
Let's go to the next film in terms of what the Mercy Sisters are up to doing. So please, the next film.
Our leadership of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas embarked on a series of listening sessions to hear from sisters about their experiences of extractive industries. So we heard from sisters in South and Central America, in the Philippines, and in different places in the United States. And a number of patterns, of course, emerged that I think are important, you know, to look at, because I think one of the dangers we found is that when we try to come in and stop a mining or other extractive project further down the line when it's in operation or close to being operating, it's very hard to stop. So trying to look at where opportunities earlier on to stop these kinds of projects. So what things that we heard is that it's not just the mining itself or the extractives itself, that there's often a lot of the infrastructure around it. So for instance, the harms that come from the pipelines carrying the oil, the hydroelectric dams that are disrupting ecosystems and indigenous communities to power other mining operations. Certainly have heard about processes that did not fully honor free and prior and informed consent of indigenous peoples as is supposed to happen. And we heard very often about that the pollution that occurs when these operations are there. We also heard about the deep spiritual harm for indigenous communities where the land is just part of their being. As we were listening to these, it really caused us to think where we can all be in solidarity, where there is a imminent danger from an extractive project in one part of where we have sisters geographically. How can the rest of us be in solidarity through prayer, through advocacy, say here in the United States with the State Department to do advocacy to see if there's some ways that the US government might be able to make known their concerns around a project that is harming local peoples. And we learned too often that violence often erupts around these projects as there's clashes between local peoples trying to defend their land and way of life and companies and security guards. And we heard of a really powerful example in Peru where the people went through the legal process where the country of Peru had approved a legal mechanism, had said that indigenous peoples had certain rights, And the indigenous peoples in this part of Peru were able to prove that the operation or the planned operation of a company was going to violate those rights, and they actually won their case. Mary Knoll's sister, Pat Ryan, who was involved in that, and it really was an important case because it showed that we can use legal processes in many cases to stop mining operations and get redress for the impacted communities in hopes of stopping any violence that might occur. Like there are ways to successfully use the legal processes. I think one thing that I find very powerful is the ways that we've been able to be in solidarity with indigenous communities, and maybe different ways than we're hearing. And that's, I understand country contexts are so different, but here in the United States, there's an international organization called Green Faith that some of you may be aware of. And they had a multi-faith delegation back in June to northern Minnesota to be in solidarity with the indigenous peoples there who were resisting an oil pipeline called Line 3. And I was very privileged to go, and it was very powerful. We had people of all different faiths, all different religions, praying together near where the pipeline was meant to be laid. We were praying near the head of the Mississippi River, which is a huge, very important river in the United States. And this oil pipeline crosses that river multiple times. And you can imagine the fear of if there's any leaks of oil from that pipeline in or near the Mississippi River. And so it was a very powerful experience and we heard from the indigenous talking about their treaty rights and the rights that are being violated by this company laying this pipeline. And then the same organization, Green Faith, called a multi-faith delegation to come to Washington, D.C. to be part of a week of actions at the White House. So we had people of faith who were standing in front of the White House with indigenous peoples protesting Line 3 and all kinds of other pipelines and mining and extractive industries infrastructure. And every day, a couple of hundred people got arrested in front of the White House in what we call civil disobedience and strongly opposing these projects and calling President Biden to stop them. So as I said, I know contexts are very different in different countries. We're able to do that in the United States with minimal risk to ourselves. But to me, it spoke very powerfully of how we as religious congregations can join with other religious and together, making these statements and showing that people of faith, of all faiths, stand in solidarity. I wonder if sharing, success stories in some way could offer some hope to people who are in the earlier stages of a struggle. I'm thinking of the success of the people of El Salvador in the case against the gold mining company where it took years, but they did win, and El Salvador, their law against mining stands, and the company could not force them to pay, millions and millions of dollars because of that law. So I think, showing some signs of hope for people who are struggling and in the midst of this really difficult work could be, I think, very inspiring.
Thank you. They were great videos. I think you got the essence of all of those things. If I'll leave you with just two very quick things. I think the first thing is, it's an obvious one, but really make sure that you understand what the point of your work is. And I say that because sometimes it gets missed. I mean, from our point of view, are we trying to make the business of mining work better for the poorest and the most excluded? As in, are we kind of making sure there's not so much human rights abuses, or are we trying to stop the mining in the first place? And depending on the context in which you're at, so if mining occurs in your country, then that's one element. But if you're also in a country where mining doesn't really occur, but mining companies are registered, then your role could be very different. You can hold those mining companies to account because that's where they're registered, that's where the share price happens, that's where the investors are. But the essential thing is to work together, because getting the voices and evidence from the communities and speaking truth to power to where those companies are based is absolutely critical. And you are wonderful exponents of it and absolutely brilliant at it. So may your work continue long. And if we can do anything to support you, we really will. Thank you, Sister Sheena.
Thank you, Neil, for your observations and for helping us bring this all together. And I think as with Sister Natalie, when we were with her at the Synod, she was excited about the networking possibilities. You know, the North and the South are different contexts working together, but we need someone to help us to understand what exactly that is. And you have helped us with your comments and the work that you continue to do, and that you are part of this Laudato Si Action platform moving forward, so we continue to really engage with one another. So this has been really a very rich time this afternoon. Many people put a lot of thought and effort into this sharing. We are one family, and we look for ways that we can communicate better, because we're about the change that we talked about early, and we're about trying to find ways to cooperate. And we had an opportunity to share these experiences with one another. And as we journey together, as Pope Francis says, the world in which we live and in which we're called to love and serve, even with its contradictions, it demands that the Church strengthen cooperation in the areas of her mission. We had a full afternoon, didn't have time for all of the questions, but they will be honored. We thank all of the presenters, their part in preparing, the person who led us in prayer, those who were helping us with the questions, and our interpreters and the technical people. Thank you so much for all of this work brought together. Next week, there will be a session about Laudato Si and the charism, which will be taught by a Sister Lori from Catholic Theological Union. And then on March 18th, we will have another webinar. Again, how can we update you on what's happening? How can we continue to involve you in work? We have a group already formed for mining, but we want others to be involved. It's a big problem. And you can continue to email us, and we will all certainly respond with these questions, so you have an idea of what a sense of security in terms of what is the way forward. Thank you a lot. Thank you, Neil. You're on there again. You did great. That's okay. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.